Hey, the last video that I posted about FRED, Facilities and Resources for Educational Development, in my circles went viral. That is, it had nearly 100 views. And so I wanted to add to that information an important element if you're considering an arrangement like Facilities and Resources for Educational Development. Hey, Richard Myers here. Thank you for joining me. And so when I covered FRED, and FRED basically was a company, a corporation formed in the state in which you live, in this case Washington State, and then applied for and received tax-deductible status as a nonprofit organization. So FRED then, the ownership of buildings and facilities were vested in to FRED and owned by FRED, a nonprofit corporation. Now, we mentioned that you could call FRED a church. You could even name it a church if you wanted to. It's a little bit of subterfuge because we know the church is not a building. We don't attend church. We don't go to church. We don't join church. We are the church. Is something that we are. And so that's an important. In fact, if you don't understand that, your Christian life will not rise to the potential that you have as a son of God, a child of the Lord Jesus Christ, and a member of His body. Now, what I wanted to do. So let's say then that you have your the meeting area where you gather incorporated as a nonprofit organization and under the titleship of an organization like FRED. There's one more element to that which is vitally important, and we're talking about protecting ourselves against government overreach and government persecution, or persecution that channels through the government. So the other element of that is the pure gift. Now, I have another video on this, but I thought I would add this one just to bring you up to date and add it. So all of the vocational individuals, those people who are earning their primary income as ministering and as giving their lives to the body of the local body that's gathered there, those individuals need to be supported by pure gifts, because if a pure gift is off of the radar. There's no official record or filing with the United States government in regard to a pure gift, and that's the element that is critical. And so the only people who know about these pure gifts is the person who's receiving them, and of course the individuals who are tendering these gifts to the ministry or the ministers that they're partnering with. And so here's the IRS Code. Now, I have in my hand here the instructions for Form 709. And you'll see there, perhaps you can read it. It says United States Gift Tax Return. And then in parentheses, it has Generation Skipping Transfer. And so one of the intentions of this part of the Internal Revenue Code is that you would not give your money to your kids, but you would give it to your grandkids. And and my daughter has friends, and maybe you know some people, some young people who receive an annual gift from their grandparents under this statute. Now, under this statute, you're required to file a tax return, except if you stay within certain limits. And I was reading here what's new. There's a title down here, what's new. The annual gift exclusion for 2022 is $16,000. So this means that you can give a pure gift of $16,000 to an individual, and you can do that as many times as you have money to do it. In other words, you could give to 100 individuals $16,000 to each of them, and there would be no obligation on your part to file a report. No one would know that you tendered those gifts, and the person receiving the gift is a pure gift, therefore it's not counted as income, and there's no record that that person has to make or filing with the government to indicate that he or she received these pure gifts. So these are pure gifts. And of course, you realize that you're giving up your tax deductibility, but that's why it's called a pure gift. When you use a tax deduction, you have, what would I say, motives beyond just the desire to give. And it's not complicated, but there is, that's why I call this a pure gift. Other gifts are not pure. Okay, so that's my terminology and my distinction. And so if you're married, of course, you can give $32,000 out of a marital community. And so the idea of the pure gift is that an individual who is serving vocationally, that is dependent upon their income to support their family, would have a support team of individuals, and these individuals may live in the local community and have a weekly contact with the individual, or they may live out of state or even out of country. In other words, they're a support team that is specifically interested in the ministry of that particular individual and is supporting that particular individual on a monthly or annual basis with pure gifts. So if one of the pastors that is pastoring your local gathering is supported through this way, that person would not have to worry about government attack upon their support. And if there is an attack upon the local body where you're meeting and so forth, the support for that vocational person is outside of any records and would not be subject to attack because no one would know about it except the individuals, of course, who are giving the gifts and the individual who's receiving those gifts. And so this is a way then, and this is the other, if you will, the other important element. If you're going to put all of the title to your buildings and properties into an organization like Fred, and then it deals with the IRS and is, because there's property involved and so forth, the individuals who are ministering within the gathering would be supported directly through pure gifts and not be subject to income tax or filings of any kind. And so this is the concept of the pure gift. And I think it's a fantastic concept. It's one of the things that I wish I would have had when I finished my training. And I think that it would have made a great deal of difference, but I had no idea at the time. So we'll talk more about this as you have questions, but I wanted to have you see this or talk about or think about this issue as part of the whole Fred concept. Hey, thank you for your time, and God bless you. Hey, an additional point on this video, as you were listening to the last few minutes, a question probably arose in your mind that if there's no record of this giving, could there be abuse? And the answer is there's less likelihood of abuse. I get an email called Ministry Watch, and I'll tell you the abuse, theft, malfeasance, and so forth is rampant in the church at large, the so-called church. But in this case, I support someone, and I hear from him almost on a daily basis because he's on Instagram, he's on different social media platforms, and I'm in touch with him almost on a daily basis. And so the actual relationship between the person giving and the person receiving is close and personal, and therefore the likelihood of a problem or abuse of any kind is almost eliminated because of that close personal relationship and the contact that's allowed by the internet and social media and the different platforms that we have. And so I just want to add that. You might think that there's room for abuse because there's no record of the giving, but that's really not true. There is a record of the giving, of course, but it's not available to the public. It's not available, first of all, and most importantly, to the government. Anyway, hey, thank you, and I hope this is meaningful and helpful. Questions and comments below would be great.